I'm Dawna Hetzler.
And I'm Sally Smith.
We, just like you, are bravely walking through the dark valleys of life in hopes of scaling joyful summits.
We believe that safe and trusted women are a force to be reckoned with. When we climb together, we can reach the mountaintop.
Many of our challenges come from feeling as if we are stuck while trying to ascend, hiding in crevices, waiting for storms to pass.
Might we suggest that you have a more proactive role in reaching the peaks of your own life?
Let's laugh at the untruths we were taught, from the common religious myths to the lies we believe about our situations and about ourselves.
It is our hope that our time together brings you solace from life's daily drudgery and a bit of lighthearted laughter.
This is a safe place where you are welcome, right where you are, even in your questions and doubts. So rise up, sister. It's time to conquer together.
And we certainly hope you'll say,
"Now that's funny."
Go.
Welcome to another episode of That's Funny. Now here's your host, Dawna Hetzler and Sally Smith.
Hey, look at that. We had the opposite.
There, we got the opposite wave going. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of That's Funny. I'm so excited. Today we're kind of wrapping up with question and answers on the topic, everything happens for a reason.
Now
That's funny.
Oh, I'm so glad we can do this. And man, I am sure, grown through this topic. And it's been good for me spiritually to kind of think through some of these things. And since we actually got some questions today.
I'm so excited.
I know. Thanks for emailing us. That was so cool to get some emails from all of you once again. And I put a note when I was thinking through some of these questions that we should have question and thought time versus question and answers, because, we've always said we don't have all the answers. We're not therapists. We can't fix it all. We don't have, we just don't know everything. We're journeying along with you in this process. So I thought it'd be fun when we do these from now on to say questions and thoughts.
I like that a lot better because, like you said, we've said from the very beginning, we are not professionals.
Right.
We're just walking this journey with you.
I think we need professionals.
Yeah, we might.
That's funny.
Now that's funny.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in and give you our first question is from Debbie in Pittsburgh. And she says, how do I differentiate everything happens for a reason, quote, knowing that there is a spiritual realm and a physical realm? And then how do I identify those two with the reasons those happen and how they correspond?
That's a tough one.
I know, right? So I thought we would jump into that one. And I guess my first thought when I read this was like, well, it kind of goes back to one of our topics where they're not different, they're the same. We are, we are spiritual beings living, as they say, a human experience. And so I don't know that it's black and white, right? Mm-hmm. It's not spiritual or physical. I think they're combined. And of course, the scripture, Ephesians 6:12 says, this is not a wrestling match against a human opponent. We are wrestling with rulers, authorities, the powers who govern this world of darkness, and spiritual forces that control evil in the heavenly realms. So, I mean, scripture tells us immediately, we're not wrestling against each other. We're not wrestling against human opponents. There are spiritual forces. And so, Debbie, I think it's a great question, but I think it's all spiritual. I mean, obviously there's human interactions and decisions with that, right?
Right.
So I think the question would be, this is happening for a reason with a capital S, right?
Right.
So there's many dynamics that are going on in the spiritual realm. And how is that affecting me humanly? Like what is the physical part of that interaction? Does that make sense? That's what
Yeah,
came to me.
yeah, that does. That does. I really like that. I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like it is spiritual.
Right.
So I don't really have more of an answer than or a thought.
Right. But we know that God like can make, infinite amount of reasons and work all these interactions for good as he is dealing with humanity and free will. And it's kind of like he's so creative and he is so powerful and he can do so many things. It's kind of neat to think about like how he might create like, well, I knew this was coming, but now that this is here, let me, work this without interfering in human will so that there are many ripple effects to this glorious outcome, even though it seems really hard in the human physical sense of things. So
Yeah,
I like to think of it that way as like, okay, um, it's just a question really when you spend time with God in the morning about, okay, God, this is a spiritual battle, right?
right,
It's not physical, it's not spiritual, it's a spiritual battle.
right.
And what are the reasons you want me to know spiritually? And what are the reasons you want me to know in this physical realm? And how do I arm up and fight against those? That's my thought, but I'm sure there's some other good avenues we haven't thought of. So everybody who's listening, if you have some ideas on this, please chime in because we might do more on this. This is a big topic and a huge question. But I think that's where we start is yeah, it's spiritual.
Yes,
It's
I agree. I agree. That's a great question. And
Mhm.
definitely send us your comments.
Right.
So we have another question from Stephanie, and this one's a good one.
Okay.
So she said, so if you're saying everything happens for a reason, does that mean bad things happen for a reason too?
Ooh, Stephanie, what do you have to
I,
say about that?
well, I think that we've kind of talked about this in some ways in some other episodes, but I mean, do we believe that bad things happen as a part of a divine plan or a higher purpose?
Mhm.
Is it thought that suffering or hardship may be part of a test, a lesson? Remember when we talked about those
Right.
tests or temptations or an opportunity for personal growth? Is it to bring us closer to faith?
Yes.
Like, do we want bad things to happen? No, absolutely not. But, there's nothing scripturally that says bad things aren't going to happen.
Yes.
I think that what we need to keep in mind is when we are going through these things, we know that God is walking alongside us. And I think going through these trials is to bring you closer to God.
Right. Agree. And something else that just came to mind too is so like the book we spent a lot of time in the book of Job, right? When we talked about your story.
Right,
And so, okay, bad things are going to happen in this fallen world. It's just a given. I mean, Jesus says, in this world, you will have troubles.
right,
Period. He doesn't say, it's going to be this great cakewalk. He says, you're going to have troubles. When you follow me, pick up your cross and carry it and follow me. So he's warning us that there is going to be these challenges. I think the question that we ask ourselves when we're in a bad situation, I do think God will, orchestrate some growth and all the things, the good things, the good reasons that he's pulling it all together. But I think one of the questions in your quiet time is, okay, maybe this is a Job moment where God and Satan are having a conversation and Satan's like, well, only if I can do this bad thing, then, right?
right.
Stephanie will curse you to your face. And he's like, well, let's have at it then. And let's see if Stephanie curses to my face. Right. So there's that. But then there's also, human decision. So I think it's a question of, hey, God, is this something, and maybe you can just ask yourself and you would know it without even inquiring with God, but is this a human decision that I made on myself? And what decisions or people that I'm hanging out with, that are making bad things happen, right? Because we have our own choices.
Right.
So
We
this
have
goes back to
goodwill.
Debbie's question, like there is the human component of the physical. What are we doing here in this earth as there's this spiritual battle going on, and our decisions, how do those decisions affect these bad things that happen? And is the reason us and our choices or somebody else's choices against us? Or is this actually something going on in the heavenlies? Or is it all together? And it's like the heavenlies are coming down and you're stressed. And so you're making bad decisions, right? I mean, this could be like it could be so many things.
Right.
But I do think it's, there's some things that we just pin on the spiritual darkness, and oh, that's Satan working again. And sometimes it's just our decisions too. So does everything happen for a reason? Does that mean bad things happen for a reason? Yes. God can say, okay, Satan, have your way. We
Right.
can choices that give us bad decisions that happen for a reason. It's your choice is the reason, right? Or
Right.
somebody's choice against you. So I would say yes, 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 and yes. How's
I
that?
agree. I
For a
agree.
long-winded answer.
No, we're having thoughts.
We're having thoughts. That's right. Questions and thoughts. All right. That was a good one. Thank you, Stephanie, for reaching out
Yes.
to us. I do have an anonymous one.
Oh,
And yeah, I know. It's about addiction. And so this person says, I struggle with addiction. I'm in and out of rehab. And one minute I think I'm new, and the next I'm not, and I'm spiraling back into addiction. How can I discover some of the reasons for my crazy battle that I fight all the time? So um, I I didn't have a good thought for that. I shouldn't say I didn't have a good thought. I didn't have an answer. And I don't think an answer is the appropriate thing. I have some questions. So now that we move from questions and thoughts, I want to go from to question to question.
question to question.
Yeah. So this anonymous person, I just want you, if you're listening in on this, I hope you are, since you sent in the question. I want to ask you some questions just to think on. And Sally, jump in if you think of any other questions that
Okay.
would be good for this particular person. But in your quiet time, your alone time with God, perhaps you can ask, where have I grown or seen the most growth between the time that you first like got into addiction to the time, because this person does know Jesus. So
Okay.
to the time you accepted Christ into your heart, like where did you see growth there? Like look at it as, do you remember in our Bible study, Sally, we did those signposts along the way. We did a lifeline,
Oh,
and it was signposts like the major things that had happened in our lives, right?
right.
And that's what I'm kind of getting at here is like, where did you see growth from being in addiction to accepting Christ to back to addiction? What growth did you see in that point? And then, each signpost of the relapse, if you will, how have you grown? What have you seen? Because I think this person's looking at the relapse more so than what is transpired in the longer picture. God sees that bigger picture.
Right.
And so God sees that image of you as whole, healed, not in addiction, not needing those things. And so I think if you can identify those pieces along the way, those signposts, you might see something more than just falling back and then getting on and off the wagon, right?
Right.
If you will. Did you have anything with that? Because I had some other questions
No,
for.
I think that's good.
Okay. So look at your signposts along the way and where have you seen the growth? When you're also sitting in your quiet time, whenever that is for you, is there a trigger moment that has caused you to want to escape? So, is there something that has triggered you? And talk to Jesus about that. If you can identify it, if you can't, maybe he can reveal what those triggers are for you. And then as you identify them, then you can be more apt to see them coming. And it's like, oh, I see this. Oh gosh, I want to escape. Now I want to get to, to
Right.
the addiction part of it, right? Because I just don't want to deal with it. So how can you find that relief in Jesus versus the escape in addiction? And then where do you see God working in your life right this moment? Even he loves us in our when we hit bottom, he loves us when we get back up, right?
Right.
He saved us. He doesn't tell us that we have to become perfect and then accept him into your heart. He meets us right where we're at. And so, maybe just have some time with these questions. And then, of course, is the fight really with myself and this addiction, or is there something bigger? And that goes back to this yes, yes, yes. It's spiritual, right? So,
Right.
where can you stand as a warrior for God? Because someday we are going to stand before God and answer for our decisions in life. And like, oh, that's such a weight to think about, right? But
Right.
scripture says we can come boldly to the throne. How do we mess up so much and then we walk there and like, hey, what's up? I'm here.
I'm
Let's
here. I
I'm
did
here. Let's review and get on with it. Let's get on to eternity. How do you approach a holy God when, we've lived this life and had to deal with so many battles and addiction, it's just one of the many battles. How do we approach with confidence that we are his beloved? So, anyways, I just think you and not Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, if you could just sit with those questions, maybe you would have some things come to light. And then if you have more questions, we'll have some more thoughts and questions for you. So hopefully that's good. Anything else you wanted to add in this session? Because it goes by so quick. I'm looking at the
I
time.
know.
We had two more we were going to get to, right? Okay, we will absolutely email you back some thoughts because we didn't get to it on air today, but we will get back with you on those.
Yes, we will. And I think that those were wonderful questions that you had, Donna. I think that I know for someone who has a family member who has struggled with addiction, I think that the one thing you said is triggers. Like, of course, we're not mental health professionals,
Right.
but knowing those triggers and maybe leaning on God when
Mhm.
you are feeling those triggers would be really helpful.
Yes, because, escape is it's temporary. Then you need
Right,
the next fix, right? You need the
right,
next fix and the next fix. It's just temporary. And I think of Jesus sitting with the woman at the well, he's like, if you knew who you were talking to, you would ask me for living water and you would never thirst again.
right.
So, having those conversations in your time with him is so revealing and healing. So I think we start there. I think we start there. And our
I,
time is up already.
it's well,
Okay, keep the
so
questions coming, everybody.
and then next episode, or we're starting a new topic, right? We're
A
not.
new topic. Are we going to give it or wait to
Nope.
reveal?
Let's wait to reveal.
Oh, okay. You're going to make them squirm.
All right. In the meantime, keep your faith and don't believe the lie that everything happens for a reasons. Now
Now
that's
that's
funny.
funny.
From the heavens high above, I feel the touch of his laughter and love. In every moment, tear and smile, God's humor is heard, every step, every mile. Keep walking, dear sister, you've got this.